Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into something crucial if you're working with a financial planner here in Canada.
Yeah, we're talking about the standards of professional responsibility from FP Canada.
Exactly. This is basically the rule book, the ethical compass for anyone with a CFP or FPSC Level 1 certification. We want to break down what these standards actually mean, especially for you, the listener, whether you're a client or maybe even a planner yourself.
Right. And we're using the official FP Canada Ethics.pdf as our guide today. We'll pull out the key stuff, the core principles, the specific rules they have to follow.
The fitness standards to even get certified?
Yeah, and the practice standards for how they should actually do the planning work with clients.
Okay, great. So let's start with the big picture, the Code of Ethics. The document calls this the moral foundation.
It is. It's like the bedrock. But it's not just like feel-good statements. It's 8 core principles that genuinely guide how a planner should behave.
First one up, duty of loyalty to the client. Sounds simple enough, client first.
It is, but it's deep. First, always act in the client's best interest, period. Their needs trump the planner's needs, the firm's needs, everyone's.
So like if there are 2 similar products, one pays the planner more, one is slightly better for the client.
They have to lean towards the client's benefit. That's loyalty.
Got it. What else under loyalty?
Big one. Conflicts of interest. They have to tell you about any potential conflicts.
Tell you.
Yeah. Disclose them. And not just disclose, but actively mitigate them. So take steps to make sure the conflict doesn't harm the client, always tilting things in the client's favor.
Okay. And there was a third part.
Acting with care, skill, and diligence. Basically being competent and careful like any reasonable professional in their field would be.
Makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, principle 2, integrity. What does that mean in practice?
It means rock solid honesty, doing the right thing always. It's not just following the rules to the letter, but understanding the spirit behind them. Being trustworthy.
All right. And objectivity.
Yeah, this is about intellectual honesty, being impartial. Your advice should come from the facts and analysis, not, personal bias or outside pressure. Unbiased judgment.
Principle 4 is competence.
Yeah.
We mentioned skill under loyalty.
Right, but this emphasizes it's ongoing. You can't just get the certificate and coast.
Okay.
The financial world changes constantly. New products, new rules, market shifts. So planners have to keep learning, keep updating their skills. Think seminars, courses, staying informed.
Gotcha. Next, fairness. What's fair in this context?
Fairness is about being open, upfront, treating clients equitably, giving them what they'd reasonably expect, clear communication, full disclosure. If a mistake happens, fairness means owning up and fixing it.
Okay. Number 6, confidentiality. This seems vital.
Absolutely critical. It's about protecting client information, financial details, personal stuff, like doctor-patient confidentiality almost.
So only authorized people get access.
Exactly. It builds that trust needed for clients to be open about their situation.
Number 7, diligence. Again, we mentioned this.
We did, under loyalty. But here, as its own principle, it really stresses being thorough and timely.
Right.
Doing the work properly, meeting deadlines, paying attention to detail. If they promise a plan by Tuesday, diligence means delivering a well-done plan by Tuesday or communicating if there's a delay.
And the last principle, number 8, professionalism. Kind of wraps it all up.
Totally. It's about acting in a way that reflects well on the entire profession. It means living all the other principles, integrity, competence, fairness, all of it. Inspiring confidence.
Okay, so those are the guiding principles. Now, the rules of conduct, how are these different?
The rules are much more specific. They're the do's and don'ts. Break these, and you could face disciplinary action from FP Canada. They translate the principles into concrete actions.
Rule 1, don't associate with dodgy people, don't make false statements. And it highlights extra care with unregulated products.
Yes, because those products don't have the same safety nets or oversight. There's more risk of, misleading stuff or even fraud. Planners need extra due diligence there.
Rule 2 talks about avoiding conduct that reflects badly on their integrity, fitness, the certification marks, or the profession, even in private life. That seems broad.
It is broad, but the idea is that a planner's overall conduct can affect public trust. If something they do, even privately, seriously damages that trust, it's a problem for the profession.
Rule 3, don't badmouth other certificates publicly. Report issues to FP Canada instead.
Right. Keeps things professional. Use the proper channels if you have a legitimate concern about another planner's conduct. No public mudslinging.
And Rule 4 builds on that mandatory reporting if you know another certificant did something really bad.
Exactly. If you have actual knowledge, not just a hunch of a serious violation, something raising real questions about their honesty or fitness, you have to report it to the Standards Council.
What counts as serious?
Think major stuff, theft, fraud, really incompetent advice causing major client harm. It's part of the profession regulating itself.
And Rule 5 extends that reporting to any illegal conduct related to financial advice, reporting it to the relevant regulators.
Yep. It's not just about FP Canada's rules, but also about upholding the law in the financial services sector.
Okay, Rule 6 deals with discretionary authority when a planner controls client money or property. Sounds like a big responsibility.
Huge. If they have custody for investment purposes, they act as a fiduciary. That's the highest standard of care. Meaning always acting in the client's best interest, managing assets carefully, keeping perfect records, never mixing client money with their own, only using funds as authorized. It's a very high bar. And courts can sometimes find a similar duty even without formal authority based on influence and client vulnerability.
Rule 7 is a big one. Disclosure. Costs, compensation, conflicts, what needs to be in writing.
A lot. Clear details on all fees and costs, how the planner gets paid, especially for the planning itself, any referral fees, any potential conflicts of interest.
Like family ties to a product provider.
Exactly. Also, the specific services being offered, any other info that might materially affect the client's decision, and contact details. It defines conflict of interest to basically anything that could compromise objectivity.
And Rule 8 zeroes in on conflicts specifically for financial planning services.
Yeah, it says you basically can't provide planning services if a conflict exists unless you give full written disclosure and the client gives informed written consent.
Informed consent.
Meaning the client truly understands the conflict and agrees to proceed anyway. If a conflict pops up later, you have to stop, disclose, and get consent to continue. It also mentions dealing with conflicts in joint engagements, like with couples.
Then Rule 9 says you have to keep disclosures updated if things change.
Right. Any material change to what you disclosed under Rule 7, like how you're paid, needs timely written disclosure following the same consent process if needed. Timely means basically as soon as possible.
Rule 10. No lending or borrowing between planners and clients except immediate family. Why so strict?
To avoid potential conflicts, pressure, or exploitation. Mixing personal finances with the professional relationship is just too risky and can cloud judgment. The definition of immediate family is spelled out.
Okay, moving to client interactions. Rule 11. Stick to the terms of the engagement.
Simple but important. Do what you agreed to do, whether it was a formal written contract or a verbal agreement.
Rule 12. Inform clients about material changes in your circumstances after engagement starts.
Yeah, things like new conflicts, changes in your firm affiliation, compensation changes, anything that could impact the relationship needs timely written disclosure.
Rule 13. Fulfill commitments in a timely and thorough manner. The guidance suggests written timelines.
Good practice, definitely. Helps manage expectations. Timely means meeting agreed deadlines or as soon as feasible. Thorough means doing the job completely and properly.
Rule 14. If a planner withdraws services, give timely written notice and don't harm the client.
Right. Ensure a smooth exit. Don't leave the client stranded.
Rule 15. If a planner leaves their firm, ensure the client is notified about the change.
Yep. Whether the planner tells them directly if allowed or make sure the firm does, the client needs to know who's handling their planning now.
Rule 16 is the reverse. Client ends the engagement. Planner has to help out.
Be professional, assist reasonably. If the client wants help transferring to a new planner, facilitate that. Don't burn bridges.
Rule 17. Return original client records promptly if asked. Keep copies, though.
Makes sense. Protects the client's originals. Planner keeps necessary records. The rule lists examples of original records.
Rule 18. Professional oversight. If you supervise others or delegate work.
You're responsible. You need to supervise reasonably, ensure they're competent in following the standards. Same if you rely on another pro's expertise, that reliance must be prudent.
Okay, now about attracting new clients. Rule 19. No shady methods, no false claims about your practice, no unrealistic promises, no pretending FP Canada endorses you specifically.
Maintain professionalism and dignity in marketing, no misleading hype.
Rule 20. Disclose key info to prospective clients too.
Yes, before they even sign up. They need a description of services, clear info on costs and payment, and anything else that might reasonably affect their decision. And anything they tell you, even at this stage, is confidential.
All right, next section. Specifics on providing financial planning services. Rule 21. Always use reasonable and prudent professional judgment.
This is core. Think critically. Look at the whole picture: goals, assets, debts, how everything connects. It's holistic.
Rule 22. Recommend only suitable and appropriate strategies. Consider risk tolerance, goals, etc. And again, extra caution with unregulated products.
Suitability is key. The best strategy fits the client, not just potential returns. And yeah, higher risk means higher diligence, especially with unregulated stuff.
Rule 23. Implement only prudent and appropriate strategies you believe won't materially harm the client. Interesting point. Even if the client insists on something harmful, the planner shouldn't implement it.
That's the ethical line. The planner shouldn't actively help implement something they truly believe is detrimental, even if the client pushes. But, importantly, this doesn't stop the client from, say, withdrawing their own money or making their own trades elsewhere.
Rule 24. Follow all applicable laws and regulations.
Seems basic.
Fundamental, non-negotiable.
Rule 25. Competence again, but focused on areas of advice. Know your limits, refer out if needed.
Exactly. Don't advise on things you don't fully understand. Get help or send the client to a specialist. And keep learning.
Rule 26. Referrals. Ensure the referred party is qualified. Disclose any referral fees.
Yeah, make sure you're sending clients to good people. Be transparent about any compensation. Getting written client acknowledgement is a good idea.
Rule 27. Stick to the agreed scope of engagement.
Don't meddle where you weren't asked to. Define the scope clearly, and if it needs to change, formally agree on the new scope. Keeps boundaries clear. Big section next. Duty of confidentiality. Rule 28. Don't disclose or use client info without written, informed consent unless legally required. This duty lasts forever.
It survives the end of the engagement, yes. Protects client privacy long-term. Consent must be specific and informed. The guidance also warns about accidental breaches like talking too loud in public or careless social media posts. Staff breaches are the planner's responsibility, too.
Rule 29. Take steps to secure information and property, physical and digital. Cybersecurity is huge now.
Absolutely. Strong security protocols for paper and electronic files are essential. Stay aware of privacy laws.
Rule 30. Can't even disclose a client's name without consent. Watch out for sign-in sheets, email lists.
Right. Even seemingly minor disclosures need consent. Best practice is written consent for sharing the name in almost any context, unless legally required, like cooperating with FP Canada investigations.
Okay, final rule section. Relationship to FP Canada. Rule 31 covers the same certified.
Yeah, things like accurate legal declarations, telling FP Canada within 15 days if anything changes on those declarations, using the certification marks correctly, doing your continuing education, keeping contact info updated.
Rule 32. Comply with orders from FP Canada disciplinary panels.
Makes sense. You have to follow the rulings. Applies even after you stop being certified, potentially.
Rule 33. Respond promptly to FP Canada communications.
Gotta answer their calls and emails.
Rule 34. Cooperate fully with investigations.
An ethical duty. Essential for public confidence in the process, unless there's a legal reason you can't.
And Rule 35. Don't lie to FP Canada.
Pretty straightforward. Honesty is required in all dealings with the governing body.
Okay, that covers the rules. Then we have the fitness standards. These are about good character.
Exactly. To get and keep the certification, you need to demonstrate good character. FP Canada can deny certification if you don't meet these.
And it lists things that are presumptive bars, like bankruptcy, license suspensions, certain criminal convictions.
Yes. These are red flags that raise serious questions about someone's fitness to be a trusted financial planner. Things like current personal bankruptcy, recent business bankruptcy where you had influence, serious license revocations, criminal convictions involving fraud, theft, dishonesty.
The document defines offense and bankruptcy pretty clearly.
It does, to avoid ambiguity. And critically, you must be truthful and complete in your declarations about these things when applying or renewing.
Yeah.
Hiding something is a breach in itself, and you have only 15 days to report any new issues.
Finally, the practice standards. These are more like guidelines for the planning process.
Yeah, they establish the expected level of practice, how to actually do financial planning work effectively and consistently. They protect clients by setting out the steps.
And they apply even if it's not a full comprehensive plan.
Right. Any engagement involving financial planning activities, the order isn't rigid, you use professional judgment, but the steps are there.
It lists 10 standards, starting with explaining the planner's role.
Defining the engagement terms, identifying goals, gathering info.
Assessing the situation, identifying strategies,
Developing recommendations, presenting them clearly.
assessing implementation, and finally implementing the plan parts the planner is responsible for.
Exactly. It's a roadmap for a thorough, client-focused process. The document also notes planners must follow the law first if there's a conflict with these standards, and should seek guidance from FP Canada if employer expectations clash irreconcilably.
And you mentioned a glossary at the end, defining key terms.
Yep, very useful. Defines things like advice, client, conflict of interest, financial planning, all the important terms used throughout the standards. Clarity is key.
So wrapping this up, this deep dive really shows there's a pretty robust framework governing certified financial planners in Canada.
Absolutely. The code of ethics, the detailed rules of conduct, the fitness standards, the practice standards, they all work together.
And the goal is clearly ethical conduct, competence, and ultimately protecting you, the client.
It's about building and maintaining trust. Knowing that someone holding that CFP or FPSC level 1 mark is held to these high standards.
Hopefully, understanding this framework helps you have better conversations with your planner and feel more confident.
Definitely. And maybe it leaves you thinking about the value of that trust, that assurance of professionalism and ethical commitment when you're navigating your financial life and choosing who to guide you. It's foundational.